Hello and welcome back to Just for Fun. I am Wheels, and this weekend just gone, Maddie and I went up to Sheffield in the UK to take part in what I believe was the largest ever UK Pauper Tournament. For those not aware, Pauper is a format in which you play cards from all of Magic the Gathering's history, but you can only use cards that were printed at some point at common rarity, which is the lowest rarity there is, which we did a whole video on that you can find up here. I'll link it. But essentially, it's one of our favorite formats. It's a great way to play competitive Magic at really cheap costs, but still play really interesting and fun decks in a huge environment with loads and loads of stuff to play with. And it was a massive pleasure to be able to be in a room with over 130 people who all love that same format, who all are bringing interesting decks, whether they're on or off meta. Spoiler, I brought an off meta deck, which I will talk about in a bit. But yeah, I just wanted to, before we get into anything, just give a general overview of the sort of tournament itself, which we had a fantastic time at. There were 7 rounds of Swiss, which is, you know, best of 3. The winner goes on to play a winner, the loser goes on to play a loser, and then your points at the end, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, determine your ranking. And then it was a top 8 cut, which was really tough. A top 8 out of 130 odd people is a small cut to try and get into. But at the same time, they tried to fit the entire event in one day, which I do kind of appreciate. And whilst it meant that we had to be in the building just after 8 a.m. and then I did like a full day's work worth of playing Magic the Gathering, which with no lunch break, which was pretty insane. But it did mean that, you know, we got to spend the next day just sort of like hanging out around Sheffield, enjoying the place, and just having a nice time. And it was great to just be in the space full of people who love Pauper, meeting other Pauper content creators. We met Teasdale, we met Carl from Card Market, a few different people who were sort of like just sharing the love of the format, which was a really, really cool place to be. We're going to talk about my journey through the tournament. We've also got some little like talking head bits from Maddie as well to see how she did. But as you can probably tell from the thumbnail and title of this video, I managed to make the top half of the tournament, which meant that I wasn't terrible, which I think was my biggest concern going in. I was concerned that we'd turn up, I'd lose every single game, and then, you know, I'd be doing nothing for the whole day. But we actually managed to get a few wins between us, and I'm happy to say that I managed to get my weird janky off-meta deck to the top half. So let's talk about my deck to kick things off. I was playing a Orzhov deck that's black-white, based around a Moxfield deck that we found just out of chance. It's one of the most viewed ones for Pauper on Moxfield. It's called Breathless by a user called Defiance, and it's all built around the Breathless Knight, who I've got right at the front of the deck here. The Breathless Knight is a 2/2 flyer with lifelink that costs 3 mana, 1 white, 1 black. And he says, whenever Breathless Knight or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it entered from a graveyard or if you cast it from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on Breathless Knight. The main combo in the deck being playing it with Recommission, which says 2 mana, reanimate a creature with 3 mana value or less, and then put a +1/+1 counter on it, which means that you get a 4/4 flyer with lifelink out of range of a lightning bolt as soon as he comes on the battlefield. And the whole deck is built around that and like a sort of life gain theme. And it's been like not necessarily topping the meta, but relatively like kind of popular with casual players, I think, for a little while. I have an upgraded, I want to say upgraded version of the deck. I think weirdly I was justified in saying upgraded based on how my first round went. But it sort of strips out a lot of the things like Suture Priest, and the Blight Priest, which kind of drains people whenever you gain life and stuff like that, and just focuses on reanimating. This is a very sort of low to the ground reanimator deck with the Gates package underneath. For those not familiar with the format, the Gates package basically uses the gate lands from the Baldur's Gate commander set, one of which is Basilisk Gate, which says you pay 2 and tap the gate, and you get to give one of your creatures +X/+X, where X is the amount of gates you control. So by using, especially in a 2-color deck, where you've got all your colors of mana available from the first gate you play, which is great, it means that whilst you've got a slower mana base because they come in tapped, you do actually get to like utilize them to their full advantage by just making this huge creature. In this case, usually the Breathless Knight is your target, which you know give him +8/+8 until end of turn. On Breathless Knight for 3, 7/7. suddenly you got a 10/10 with flying and lifelink. Huge. So it's a sort of, you know, like a slightly on meta deck, because Core Gates is a very popular deck in the format, which is like a blue-white version, focuses on just like dumping loads of creatures down. But this one was more about cycling. So like I had a few things that could reanimate, things like the Cauldron Familiar, which you can sack a food to put back on the battlefield, pairing it with things like Lember Spread and Gingerbrute, which you can then sacrifice it into speed. And I found that this deck can be a little bit more survivable than its first version. You've got a lot of things that just recur small creatures, which means that you can, as long as you don't get trampled over, you can block very easily, put a creature in front of something, sacrifice it for card draw, all that kind of stuff.
Attack for one.
I will block with Cauldron Familiar before damage. I'll sacrifice it to a Deadly Dispute.
Okay.
That will gain a life from Luminous Phantom.
Yep.
Which gives you loads of time to build up your Gates package, which is obviously one of the most important things you have in the deck, because it allows you to get over the top and win. So had that as my deck, very off meta. I think the MTG decks posted like a sort of like, here's all the decks from the tournament, and I was like spiciness 81%, which spiciness being completely off what people normally play in the deck. And round one came around, I sat down, lovely guy called Wiley Coyote UK was his MTG Melee username. And he sat down and he was like, okay, I've been playing Pauper for like 12 years, like really lovely, like chat with him. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna, turn one, I'm gonna play a tapped Citadel Gate with name Black. And I was like, oh my God, is it? Went for a couple of turns, we were mirror matching. I was like, how is it that out of 130 plus people, there were 2 people playing a Breathless Night deck, me and this guy, and we got matched against each other in the first round, which I think is great.
Turn one retrospective. Yeah. We're 1-1 at the moment. I've got a win. I actually went up against a mirror match, which was very fun.
Yeah, I did the exact same. I didn't.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
I was in a mirror match. It was really fun, which is why it's like I knew what to expect and what was happening, which was like a nice intro.
Yeah. Well, I was very much not expecting a mirror match, because I'm playing like an old deck that no one plays anymore that I've like tooled up. Had a lovely time playing with him, and then won 2-0. So
yeah,
got my Breathless Nights out, swung.
You love to see it.
He didn't get his removal, and I was feeling good.
Playing an off-meta deck, having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, my match was good. This is classic me. I will win the first round and then I'll never win again. Like that's me. I won the first round. The second 2, like one of them was close, and then just couldn't get my burn spells in the last one.
Exhausted, and Maddie had a fun running with that.
Oh my God, I was so tired. When I was sideboarding, I put a Pyroblast in,
which reads destroy target blue permanent or counter target blue spell, which there were none of.
Which I could have, because it was a sneaky snacker, so it was actually
that's
fine.
so true. It was anti-sneaky.
And genuinely, that killed me. The snackers killed me. So actually, it probably was a good idea to put it in, and I would do it again. But I was so tired because I didn't think. I was just like, oh my God, yeah, like I'm sideboarding. I need to put Pyroblast in because I'm sideboarding, rather than being like, what am I actually doing?
Yeah.
Maddie also had a mirror match, also played against Madness Burn, but that was one of the more popular decks of the tournament. So that was slightly more higher odds. But yeah, went up straight into round one with a mirror match. And I think that really gave me a lot of confidence for the rest of the day, because it was a 2-0 for me, quite convincingly, I would say as well, not to downplay my opponent's efforts or anything, but I didn't feel very pressured at any point. My Breathless Night was just getting big. I think there was a bit of card draw luck, because I think that for one of the rounds, my opponent couldn't find his Basilisk Gate, which means that he wasn't pumping up his creature as easily as I could. But very easily won out and put me in a good standing. And that was when the stress started to come in, because now I'm 1-0 up. This is the biggest tournament I've ever played at. I've never done competitive stuff before this, outside of like local things at Dice Saloon. So I'm here with 130 plus people, all playing like on meta decks. There were plenty of like, Jund combo going on. So loads of people playing like quite scary decks that are quite powerful. And then I'm 1-0 up, which means I'm going to be in the winner's bracket. So I sit down for round 2. Another lovely guy who actually, to be fair, like one of the things that I do want to say about the tournament, whilst I like wasn't surprised this was the case, because I feel like Pauper has an atmosphere of like quite easygoing, relatively friendly people. This isn't a format where you're like spending $1,000 to buy a deck and then going up against some of the like sweatiest, most rules crunchy players you've ever met, which meant that I was you know, expecting it to be relatively nice, but at the same time, it was the biggest tournament I'd ever been to. And I was a bit worried about, God, is this going to be full of people who are really like pushing every letter and really like calling the judge over every 5 seconds and being a bit kind of spiky. But I was like pleasantly surprised to say everyone who I played against, at least, absolutely lovely, really, really friendly. Had a lovely time, met loads of people that, you know, had a nice, genuine conversation with. We met a few people who liked the channel as well, which was really cool. Got to chat with a few people who watched our videos, especially ones that watched our Pauper video, which was nice. Sat down with yet another lovely competitor, who in this case was actually playing a meta deck, and this was my first test. So this was Gruul Ramp. Gruul Ramp being red-green, big mana, play a huge creature, usually one with Cascade, like Annoyed Altasaur. So you can just get loads of value, just loads of stuff on the board that then can swing in and trample, and very, very scary. I think I ended up losing the first game to him because I wasn't really prepared for the game plan that was ahead of me. But then, won game 2, won game 3, and all of a sudden I'm 2-0 in the tournament. And I'm thinking, okay, this is going suspiciously well.
Round 2, Wheels remains undefeated.
And I remain losing.
Unwinned.
Yeah, I don't know the mirror match. I would like to play like something else that's not madness, because like if I do the 4 losses and therefore I just bow out, then all I've played is madness. I'm a bit like, okay, I know this deck, I'm playing
You
that.
chose the madness life,
Yeah.
I went up against Gruul Ramp, which is a pretty like big hitter meta deck at the moment. Round 1 got trampled. Round 2 actually played really well, managed to like control him well, killed off his Utopia Sprawl, which really ruined his mana curve, which was nice. And then he was playing like 1 creature, and I was like, kill that, all good, all good. Managed to control the game, which was nice. Round 3 got lucky. He just drew lands.
Hey,
and look, sometimes you get.
Sometimes that's the vibe. That was me. Round 3, I got very unlucky. That was just, I did not draw anything good.
I think I only saw Breathless Night once in that game.
Really? Oh damn, you saw.
Although I got my gates that I needed. I always got my Basilisk gates, which is very useful.
Gates.
And yeah, I think in the end I just had my Ginger Brute out, the absolute legend, unblockable. Here's an unblockable 5/5, you know.
Yeah, kill on sight is Ginger Brute.
Yeah, love that. And then I sack him and put Cauldron Familiar on the board instead.
God damn it. Stupid
So yeah, going into round 3.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Wish us luck.
There was a sort of like quiet optimism in me at this point, and I was like, maybe my deck is just so off meta that people have no idea what to do with it. Because the amount of times that I would play a card and someone go, what is that? And then like turn it around, read it, and be like, okay. I believe it might have been this opponent who I played a like some kind of creature or something like that, and he just responded with, what are you cooking, man? Which is a great feeling, because you know, if you play a deck that's awful and no one's heard of it, not very great feeling, because everyone's just like, wow, what are you doing, I guess. But if you play a deck which has, you know, wins inside of it, but no one's ever seen it before, suddenly people get a little bit worried, a little bit scared, right? Because they're just like, I haven't prepared for this. Which, when I went to my round 4, which is a bit of a spoiler, but I sat down, she saw the deck I was playing, knew it because she knew the other guy who was playing the same format of deck, and was like, oh God, not this thing. She was like, I've sideboarded against all the most popular decks, but you obviously have nothing against. Like, I don't even know what sideboard. Which is a really cool feeling, which is, you know, if you do like brewing decks, I do recommend it for tournaments, because it really does make people confused and unsettled when they play against you. But yeah, round 2, managed to get the win, went all the way up to table number 1. And I think at the time I was placed 10th, which is probably the best I've ever done, you know, comparative to the number of players. And I was on the top tables, on table number 1, playing against the most popular deck in the format, Kuldotha Goblins. So this is pure aggro. I don't think I ever saw my opponent have more than 3 mountains on the board. Just like swinging in with a copious amount of goblins and like hasty aggro creatures, using Goblin Bushwhacker to pump them all up. And just, yeah, trying to beat me down.
Round 3, just finished.
Oh my God, I got my first win.
2 wins.
Was it justified, or did you just not be able to draw a forest?
Yeah, I was on table 1 as well on 1.
So well.
Beat Mono Red Godolphin, which I don't think I've ever played against. But yeah, we're doing well. We've
still in the game.
Yeah, 2 wins for the team.
I thought I was going to be out getting lunch very soon.
Yeah.
probably still will be. I've won one.
It will just be turn 5 instead of turn 4 if it goes the same way.
Love to see it.
But yeah, like I'm on top table, so hope it keeps going.
You're just gonna keep going.
Yeah, let's hope. If I just keep playing against people who want my life to tick down, and then I'll keep ticking it up, then hopefully I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it's the fun thing about playing a deck that no one has ever played against. You know, that like everyone's like, "What's happening?"
Bringing something off meta is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Like, I'm loads of people playing what I'm playing. Like I already had 3 mirror matches. I've seen people all around me playing what I'm playing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are prepared for that.
Yeah, no one sideboards against a deck they've never heard of.
Yeah,
you know, which is great.
yeah.
Which is why it's so wild that I mirror matched in the first round.
So insane.
Round 1 did not succeed. Managed to get enough kind of health in the tank that I could just. The thing is with aggro, like you need to win quick. If you don't win by turn, I don't know, 5 or 6, you have run out of gas usually, which means that you're either hoping that your opponent is low enough health that like a stray lightning bolt or something will finish them off, or they just don't assemble whatever it is they need to defend before you can just keep swinging. And I think in game 1 and in game 3, I had managed to get Breathless Night on the board. I got into a 4/4, which meant that she couldn't lightning bolt him, which gave me a bit of like protection from any mono red removal that was in the deck. And at that point, I'm healing potentially as much as you're dealing. I've got my little guys out to just block whatever's biggest. And at that point, I managed to push over the line. This was another 2-1 victory. So, you know, played all 3 rounds. So not a convincing win, but a win nonetheless. And all of a sudden I'm 3-0 up, presumably one of the highest ranked in the tournament now, you know, in the winners bracket. And I'm thinking, oh my God, could I actually do something good here? Could this be my best tournament performance ever? Go into round 4, and at this point, reality starts to set in, because I think one of the biggest things that I'd gotten away with at the start of the tournament, I hadn't played any blue decks. I think it's one of my biggest struggles is playing against control. And whilst this deck does okay against control, because it can bounce back from kill spells and counter spells and things, because it's still just filling my graveyard. At the same time, it's still my hardest matchup just as a person. Like, I really struggle to play against control decks in general. I never really know what to do against them. And up until this point, I hadn't seen one. Going into round 4, it's mono white aggro. All of a sudden, I'm like, am I going to just not see blue today? And I think, looking at the deck breakdown of the tournament, which you can do in a minute, like, it seems like in the UK, maybe blue just isn't quite as popular, which you would not know from playing in our local league or going to our local tournaments. But yeah, there was a lot of Juns, a lot of green, a lot of black, a lot of red, I saw, which was nice, because like, playing against that, I'm absolutely fine with. So going into round 4, I've got mono white weenie, just swinging out novice inspectors and things like that, and I'm like, okay, this is fine. I can handle this.
Hi, we're doing a quick one because I just went to a time limit draw.
You did.
How did you do?
I lost, so I've dropped.
Oh dear. Oh well.
I'm gonna go walk around and get some food.
That's fair. I'm starving, so yeah. It's just me left from just for fun. I think that was table 9, so I was in top 10 for the last few rounds.
Crazy.
So I've probably just gone down out of top 10 now. But that was the 4th round, so there's only 3 games left. So still good hopes. Good hopes.
I feel like
still haven't played control. Went up against mono white weenies.
I just went against control.
Yeah.
So counted literally every single thing I did, and I had 2 lands.
Yeah.
It was rough.
All I have to do is just keep avoiding blue players, and maybe I'll be all right. But we'll see.
I haven't seen that many, so you might be okay.
No, there's a lot of fun decks, to be honest. It's been a very, very varied tournament, which I'm really enjoying. But yeah, we'll check in after round 5, which will just be me. So see you in a bit.
We go to round 1. I get the win. She has to kind of... I actually was really impressed by my opponent in this round. I don't know if they're watching, but like, she was really kind of like, oh God, how am I going to win against this deck? Like, this is such a perfect counter to my deck almost, because it's doing kind of the same thing, but with loads of lifelink and with flying and with reanimation, all this kind of stuff. So it's like, there's a lot more tools that I had at my disposal to do the same kind of objective. And then round 2, she was like, okay, I need to rethink my strategy, right? Like, I need to turn myself around, go more mid-range. And she did, won game 2. And I was like, damn, fair enough. This is gonna be a tricky matchup. At the same time, I was struggling for mana. I think I had at most 5 lands throughout all of that best of 3. Like at no point did I ever get a 6th or something like that. So I had to really like scrape by with what I had. Could never really cast more than 1 or 2 things per turn. And we went all the way to time, went to turns. I think I was on like 27 health. She was on 24. Neither of us had gone below 20 health. We went to time. We had 5 turns left. I was like, I think this is probably going to be a draw, but we'll play it out. Played it out. It was a draw. So I'm now 3-1-0. Still haven't been defeated. And we're over halfway through the tournament Swiss rounds now. So I've got 3 wins under my belt, a draw. I've got 3 matches left. I think in a format this competitive, you would probably be able to take about 1 loss, and then if you took anything worse than that, you'd be out. So having 1 draw, I was like, okay, this is very doable. Like I can carry this on. So this is unfortunately where, as I said, reality started to set in, and I find myself getting quite hungry, getting quite tired. At this point, Maddie had got a couple of losses and decided to drop out, so she could just have fun around Sheffield. And also meant that, like, it was handy because we had an off person who'd be like, can I go get you a sandwich? You know, like all this kind of stuff. Can I get you a water? Which you literally have no time, like, in between rounds, especially if you're going to time limit draw like I did. It's straight into the next round. And it's something that, you know, I think I'll need to be more prepared for if we go to another tournament, is that you just do not get a break, which means you've got to find time to eat, time to drink, time to go to the toilet. And if you don't, you know, like, give yourself a chance with like an aggressive deck, for example, where, you know, you've got half of the round still left over, then you're really going to be slugging, you know, throughout the whole tournament, just thinking, God, I need a rest. And that was very much me. Like, I had a very mid-rangey deck, which means that I was, you know, it took me a while to win if I did, which meant that by the time that we got to round 5, I was pretty tired. And it was at this point, you know, where I was like, okay, I really don't know how much brain I've got left. I come up against the most, I want to say the most prevalent deck at the tournament, I think. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen it yet. Had a really lucky first 4 rounds. But this is the Basking Brood Scale plus Sadistically combo deck. Basically goes infinite with 2 cards and then can kill you very easy. And it is a very, very stressful deck to play against, especially if you're not already playing control.
Hi.
What I assume will be a jump cut here. Maddie has rejoined me.
I'm back.
I just did round 6 and finally went up against Brood Scale combo, which I can't believe how long it took.
Yeah.
I've just been sweating the entire game.
It was gonna happen at some point.
It was gonna happen at some point.
It sucks. It was now.
Yeah, and also I just lost to Mono Blue Fairies. I was like, oh God.
That's horrible.
Sat down against Brood Scale. I was like, this is rough. But yeah, sat down, lost game 1 because I didn't really know what I was playing against. And I saw the Brood Scale, and it was too late. So I thought it might have been Golgari Gardens because he hadn't played anything else, and it very much was not. Then round 2, knew it was coming, managed to win through like sheer persistence. Thankfully, I think he just didn't find the other part of the combo. But I ended up swinging 2 9/9 Breathless Knights, and he only had 1 reach blocker, and I got him to exactly 9 health. I was like, yeah, here we go. And then, yeah, round 3, had to mulligan down to a 5-card hand. Wasn't drawing any lands. He duressed me turn 1, got rid of my only interaction. I was like, this is not a good sign. So I'm 3-1-2, so I'm probably not going to be in the top 10, but we're going to play the last round, see how well I do. Maybe we'll do top 32, get a pack or something, who knows. But it's been fun, but it's, yeah, as you get towards the last game, it gets stressful.
So round 1, I thought it might have been Golgari Gardens, which is a really slow control deck. And then just out of nowhere, the combo came out, and I went, oh, shit. I didn't realize what I was playing against. So I kind of threw away round 1. And again, if I'd been paying more attention, if I was a bit less tired, would I have maybe spotted it a bit early? Who knows? But going to round 2, and now I'm a bit more aware of what's going. I load in loads of removal. I've got Duress. I've got Thraben Charms to kill enchantments or kill creatures. You know, I'm making sure that I've got a lot of stuff that I can use in a pinch if that combo comes up. Turn 1, round 2, draw Duress in my opening hand, play it, my opponent reveals a hand. He's got the Basking Brood Scale, he's got a Duress, and he's got 2 protection spells in Tamiyo Safekeeping. So I was like, okay, so he's got 3 things in hand that can stop me ruining his combo. And I've got 1 duress, so I just had to get rid of his duress so that he can get rid of one of my kill spells. And then just the tensest round of Magic I think I've ever played. Because at that point, I was like, I'm not just playing for fun anymore. I've got like 3 wins and a draw under my belt. Like if I get a decent amount of wins in these next 3 rounds, I could be in contention with like a proper like prizing space. I think it was like top 32 or something like that. We're at the very least getting packs. So I was like, okay, I could really walk away with something here. And just every turn, just like, I can play this, and then pass my turn, and then he would pass his turn, and I would pass my turn, and then it was just like, I could tell he was rooting for the other half of the combo. And luckily, I don't think he found it at any point, but knowing that there were so many ways for him to protect it, I had to find my kill spells as fast as I could, so I could then, you know, like burn through them, so he didn't have protection anymore. And in the end, I was sat there, I had 2 Breathless Knights out. He had 1 Reach blocker, which is the Writhing Chrysalis, which is another sort of powerful card from Modern Horizons 3. And I was like doing maths in my head. I was like, I think because I had I had a Ginger Brute out. I killed the Ginger Brute to get the cat back. The cat, like, reanimating puts +1s on the Breathless Knight. Then I sacrificed the cat to something else. Then I reanimate the Ginger Brute with one of my reanimate spells, sack the Ginger Brute to get the cat back. And I think both of my Breathless Knights after doing that were 9/9s, because I hadn't seen the Basilisk at any point. So I had all this power, and he only had, I think, literally 9 health left. So if I swung with both, he could only block 1 and it would win me the turn. And I swing and I'm just like, if you've got a kill spell, I'm so screwed. And he's just like, no, I've got nothing. I was like, oh my God. Go to round 3 and I'm just sweating because I'm not used to this level of competitiveness. And just the stress of knowing that at any moment, you know, the game could just be over. And unfortunately I had to mulligan down to 5 cards. So I'm very, very low. I had like 1 kill spell in hand. I had to keep going because I couldn't find any lands. I was like, if I can't play cards, then I'm probably pretty screwed here. I play my 1 kill spell on something that enables his combo. I believe he has a protection spell for it. So at that point, he's got his infinitely large basket root scout out. So it's, you know, a million. And I just had to hope that I could just keep putting a cat in front of it and just hoping that he could just run over my cat a million times, but not find any trample or impact tremors effects or anything like that. But unfortunately, I just ran out of gas and I couldn't block, and then that was it. It was my first loss of the tournament, which in turn 5, I think is pretty impressive. Considering this is the first time I've ever gone and playing an off-meta deck. Like, I felt really proud of myself at that point. I was like, okay, there are now 2 rounds left of Swiss. Maybe, just maybe, if I win them both, I'll get something. At this point, Maddie turns back up after sort of walking around finding some lunch. I sort of tell her what's going on. She's like, oof, feels tough. And I'm like, yeah, I'm exhausted at this point. Like, bear in mind that we had just done like a 5-hour drive up to Sheffield the night before. Struggled to sleep in a new hotel bed, all this kind of stuff. So like, I already was quite tired as it is. It was way too early for me to be getting up. I'm not a morning person. And at this point, I've done, I guess, 5 hours plus of competitive Magic the Gathering. Playing at the highest levels I've ever have done. I'm just thinking, God, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do in this, but I'm going to give it my absolute best. And I sit down, round 6. My opponent plays an island, and I'm like, oh no. This is it, isn't it? This is the one. It's mono blue fairies, and I was like, oh, this is a terrible time. It's like all my toughest matchups came right at the end of the day. I was like, I don't know if I've got the brain for this.
It finally happened. I played against a mono blue deck, and I lost 2-0. Had him on 3 health in the second round, and just couldn't quite push through. But got mana screwed in both rounds, so it happens. I just didn't have enough mana to keep up with what was going on. Didn't have enough mana to play around the counter spells and stuff like that. So not a huge amount I could have done, really. Doesn't feel too bad to lose, but that is my first loss, and I also have a draw. So with this many players and only a top 8, I feel like I'm probably in like low odds of making it. top 10 would have been a bit more kind, but we just have to see what happens. I'm just going to keep playing. I know I need to win every game now. I know that. So we'll just go as far as we can and figure out what happens.
Tried my absolute best. I think round 2, I got my opponent down to 2 health and just couldn't get past. Just had so many spell start sprites and things like that. Just so many little flying blockers that I just couldn't get past. And then ended up losing 2-0. And I was like, right, that is it now. I am officially out of the running for big prizing, I think. But there was 1 round left, and whilst I was exhausted, I was like, I want to just play the whole thing, see how far I can get on my own merits. So I sat down against, again, absolutely lovely guy. I think he had like a Spanish accent or something like that, so I don't know if he had traveled for the tournament as well, which is really cool. We had a few people who had come in from Europe. I think honestly it was probably easier to get a flight from Europe than it was to drive from Brighton, but that's the transport in the UK, I guess. But yeah, sat down, he was playing mono blue Delver, which is, Delver of Secrets and Tolarian Terror and stuff like that. Just a really classic deck, and I was like, it's the one control deck I really don't mind playing against quite as much, because it feels a lot more aggressive than standard control decks, where they just sort of durdle and do nothing. Which was tough, and I was like, at this point, I was very much like, I mean, I'm out, like it doesn't matter if I win or lose this one.
Okay, it's done. I lost again. We had bog standard mono blue Delver, the deck you get given by default on Magic the Gathering Online, and I lost 2-0. I was so tired.
Oh, it's been such a long day. I think
Yeah.
my brain's still functioning.
I was making mistakes like every round. I was like, yeah, it's done. I'm done.
You're
But
good.
yeah, wanted to see if I could squeeze myself into the top half. We'll see. I think there's maybe some kind of prizing, but I don't know if we'll get it. But yeah, fingers crossed. I think I was already in like 48th or something like that.
Right, so yeah.
Yeah, so if I'm
that's
dropping
great.
again, then probably not.
Yeah, true.
Probably not, but yeah. Yeah, that was our experience of Pauper
Yeah,
Nationals.
we'll obviously talk more about it when we're not falling asleep, but we
Yeah.
did it. We came, we played.
And we had a great time.
We did
Had a really,
good
really good
Yeah,
time.
it's been so nice.
Such a wide range of decks to play against. Loads of really lovely people.
Yeah, I was worried it was
Even-
very sweaty, but it was not.
Yeah, like-
everyone was really nice.
Even my most quiet and serious competitor.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this guy's a bit, bit miserable. And then he finished the game, went, whew, you can tell
Yeah,
he's in the
just
zone,
concentrate.
Yeah, and that'd be really nice. So, yeah, it's been a lovely little experience. And I would do it again. I would do it again.
Finally got to the end of the tournament. They announced the scores.
Our Swiss portion of the event, and I am happy to announce that we do have a clean top cut to our top 8. After our Swiss, our first place player on 19 points, that is 6 wins and 1 draw, is Ben Polke.
I think I finished 62nd. I'll have the official thing up on the screen so you can have a look. But that is about as close to the middle point as you can get, which makes sense because I had 3 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses. So a very even, 1-1 KD basically. So right down the middle of the table, but just enough to get me over the top half, which is probably the draw doing that. And managed to finish in the top half of the tournament, which I think, I would have been, if you told me that I could finish top half when we were going, I would have, shook your hand and said, yeah, sounds great. It's a massive amount of people to be playing against. It's not a deck that anyone plays, and, probably for good reason. But yeah, had a wonderful time, had a fantastic run at the start. That is probably one of the most, adrenaline pumped I've ever felt playing Magic, was when I was 3 wins in a row at the start of the tournament playing my silly deck, beating big hitters like Mono Red and Gruul Ramp and stuff, and just thinking, oh my god, could I actually do something here? Could I actually potentially get somewhere? And I think, yeah, considering how much mental strain there is going to a tournament like this, which I don't think I was prepared for at all, probably a lot of the mistakes that I made in the last few rounds, you could probably attribute to that. And I'm hoping that when we go back next year, regardless of what deck I end up playing, I'll be a bit more prepared for that, and maybe, just maybe, I can push even further up the table, and I would absolutely love to. If you haven't been to a tournament of this size, I can't vouch for all of them. I don't know if like some of them are just a bit more hostile than others, but like the energy in the room is really electric. I had such a like fun feeling of like being amongst all these like-minded people who really like the thing that I like, and like just, you know, getting to play it over and over again. It's such a cool feeling. And to a point which I just hadn't experienced before, because obviously everyone's there with so much like, you know, like hope in their hearts, right? It's like, it's not just sort of like I'm turning up to Commander night and sure, there's like 30 people here all playing Commander and we're all having a great time. But at the same time, you know, we're all just kind of like casually playing a silly deck and having a drink and eating some food and stuff. This is very much like, I love this deck. I'm going to see how far it can get. I know it inside and out. I've sideboarded against other people here. I know what's probably coming up, all this kind of stuff. And it was just like, it was the most top level bit of Magic I've ever played, and it feels really fun. It feels really cool. And I'm really excited to do more competitive Magic. I'm definitely very happy that it was a Pauper tournament as well. I absolutely love Pauper. I love the environment. I love playing in it. I think there's just so much like space to build interesting things, and with every set we just get new cool things to work with, you know. So I'm a very much a positive review from my perspective of the Pauper tournament of Pauper Nationals. What I would like to see in the future, perhaps just kind of like go bigger, you know. It felt very much like there was competition for places. They ended up, I think they started with 100 seats, ended up expanding to 30 plus because, you know, more people were wanting to get in there. It does feel like, you know, with that much momentum behind you, you should try and aim for a bigger number next year, see how big you can get. I'd love to be at the, you know, the next biggest Pauper tournament ever done in the UK. I would also love to see, I guess you would need to spread out the event over multiple days if you were going to do this, but I would love to see a lunch break. I don't know if that's just a thing I'll have to get used to. It seems like that is a pretty common thing in tournaments from what I've seen, is that you just have to play all day and just kind of suck it up. But yeah, just like a small break in the middle would be great. And then also just maybe just expand the top half a little bit more. I liked that there were kind of like pack prizing and stuff like that. To sort of incentivize people who hadn't, you know, like gotten right to the tippy top of the table, but managed to do really well and therefore like got to go home with at least something, right? So yeah, really cool experience. Absolutely loved it. Let us know if you want to see more Pauper from us. If you want to, you know, put together some kind of Pauper tournament kind of versus that we did or something like that. We play the decks that we brought up against each other. We'll say they're a terrible matchup for each other because it's Burn versus Lifelink, which means that they end up being very quick and dirty matches. But yeah, had a great time. Deck list is in the description if you want to give it a go yourself. A huge shout out to all the people that I played against. Massive shout out to Pauper Dan who ran the tournament. Very like passionate person in the Pauper community and does a lot of stuff for the sort of local scene for it. So yeah, very happy to see Pauper doing so well and having events that are like doing well in the UK as well, which is obviously our home. And just can't wait to play more. Thanks very much for watching here on Just for Fun. We will be back with more Magic content very soon. We've already got one in the pipeline that hopefully will stop having audio issues and we can get it out on time. But yeah, up until Christmas, we're going to be trying to post as much content as we can. But until then, have a lovely festive giving period. Grab your loved one a new Pauper deck. They're not even very expensive, so you might as well, right? And we'll see you on the next Just for Fun video. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, click the bell icon to get notified whenever we put a new video live. And most importantly, just have a great time playing Magic the Gathering, and hopefully we'll see you in an event soon. Bye!